Growing up, I was Sandra, the forgotten one in a family where the scales always seemed uneven. My brother David was the golden child, adored and showered with praise, while I lingered in the shadows, an afterthought in comparison. 2 years ago, I met Liam at an art exhibit hosted by a mutual friend. He was different, gentle, attentive, and incredibly supportive. We clicked instantly, bonding over our shared love for indie films and vintage novels. When he proposed last spring beneath blooming cherry blossoms at our favorite park, I said yes without hesitation. We eagerly began planning our dream wedding, something small yet meaningful. I felt secure knowing I had a wedding fund my parents had promised me, a tradition they'd upheld for David 3 times over. But everything unraveled during a family dinner one Sunday. David announced his 3rd engagement, and the room erupted with cheers and toasts. I sat quietly, forcing a smile as the celebration swirled around me. When I casually mentioned my own wedding plans later, the mood shifted, and the room went silent. "You should know, Sandra, we had to dip into your wedding fund for David's last ceremony," my dad said, avoiding eye contact. "He needed the help. I'm sure you understand." The words hit like a punch. "Some of it? How much of it?" I managed to ask, my voice shaking. My mom chimed in sharply. "It's gone, all of it. We assumed you'd take longer to settle down. Considering your history, David was in need." I stared at them, stunned. "You promised that money was for me. How could you just give it away without asking?" "It was necessary," my dad explained, as though his reasoning was flawless. "David's been through a lot. He deserved a fresh start." "And I don't?" I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "I've been working and saving with Liam, counting on that fund. You knew that." My mom waved off my words, her tone dismissive. "You should have been more proactive with your relationships, Sandra." We made the decision that was best for the family. Furious and heartbroken, I left the dinner early. At home, Liam was waiting for me, his warm presence the only solace I had that night. I broke down, pouring out my frustration and pain. He held me close, whispering words of comfort and determination. "We'll make it work, Sandra," he said firmly. "No matter what, we'll have our day." With renewed resolve, we adjusted our plans. We chose a smaller venue, cut the guest list, and created homemade decorations. It wasn't the wedding I'd envisioned, but it would be ours, free of the weight of betrayal. I couldn't let go of the hurt, though. A few days later, I confronted my parents over coffee. The air was icy as I asked, "Why did you do it? How could you take my wedding fund without even telling me?" My dad sighed, looking weary. "David needed it more. He struggled so much. We thought it was the right thing to do." "And me? What about my struggles? My dreams?" My voice cracked with emotion. "You've always been the strong one," my mom said, her words cutting deeper than she realized. "David needed support. We assumed you'd manage. So, because I'm strong, you decided I didn't matter?" I stood, my hands trembling. "You didn't just take money, you shattered my trust." They tried to justify their actions with weak excuses about family priorities, but I couldn't listen anymore. Leaving the cafe, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. The people I once trusted had shown their true colors. In the weeks that followed, Liam and I poured ourselves into creating a wedding that reflected us. We chose a serene local park for the ceremony, adorned with simple wildflowers and accompanied by soft acoustic music. Every detail was crafted with care and love. I made a difficult choice not to invite my parents. Their betrayal had left scars I wasn't ready to reopen. Protecting my happiness meant setting boundaries, even if it hurt. On our wedding day, the sun shone brightly, casting a golden glow over the park. Surrounded by close friends and a few family members, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. This wasn't the grand event I'd imagined, it was something far better. It was real, it was ours. As I walked down the aisle, Liam's eyes met mine, filled with unwavering love and joy. Our vows were heartfelt promises of partnership and understanding, and when we kissed, the applause felt like music to my soul. The day was simple yet beautiful, a true reflection of who we were. The reception, filled with laughter, homemade food, and heartfelt speeches, was a celebration of love in its purest form. When we shared our wedding photos online, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Friends and distant relatives expressed their happiness for us, but not everyone was pleased. My parents, shocked to realize they hadn't been invited, reacted with anger. How could she exclude us from her wedding? They demanded. But for the first time, their disappointment didn't affect me. I had chosen my path, free from their control, and surrounded by love. This was my beginning, a life built on trust, respect, and the strength to stand up for myself. My mother's text was filled with anger and hurt, especially after everything we had done for her. My father's response was even colder. After all the years we've supported you, this is how you repay us? She's clearly made her choice. Their words were a harsh contrast to the perfect day we were having. Though I had anticipated this and was ready, holding Liam's hand, I felt confident enough to face whatever came next. The family gathering that followed was tense. As news of our decision spread, whispers and judgmental stares greeted me whenever I entered the room. Some family members approached, asking why I hadn't included my parents, suggesting that family unity should come before everything. But as I calmly explained my reasons, with Liam and a few supporters standing by me, I found inner strength. This was about drawing boundaries and prioritizing our happiness over toxic family expectations. Despite the backlash, I was surprised by an unexpected outpouring of support. Several cousins and aunts reached out privately, sharing their own stories of dealing with family pressure. It was comforting to know that we weren't alone in our quest for independence and respect. As the days turned into weeks, my parents' initial shock faded into an uncomfortable silence. They made no further attempts to confront me, possibly realizing the depth of their mistake. Liam and I moved forward, our bond only growing stronger through the challenges we'd overcome. Our wedding was more than a ceremony, it was a declaration of our commitment to live on our own terms, free from the weight of familial expectations. It was the beginning of a future where our love and choices mattered above all else. A few weeks later, during a routine phone call, the conversation took an unexpected turn. My mother's voice, strained but trying to sound casual, said, "Sandra, your father and I have been thinking, maybe we should have a proper wedding, a big celebration, where we can invite everyone." I paused for a moment. "Mom, Liam and I are already married. We had the wedding we wanted." She persisted. "It was small. We're talking about something meaningful, where we can celebrate with all our friends and family. Think about your father, this would mean so much to him." Then my dad took over the phone. His voice was unusually heavy. "I've been feeling unwell lately, Sandra. The doctor said stress could be affecting my heart. Not seeing you have a proper wedding is taking its toll." The guilt trip hit hard, stirring both anger and sadness in me. I knew this pattern well. This was manipulation, something I had endured for years. But this time, I wasn't the same person who could be swayed by guilt. "Dad, I'm sorry you're not feeling well, but our wedding has already taken place. It was meaningful to us. You chose not to support us when we needed it, and now you don't have the right to ask for a do-over." There was a long pause. My mother then snapped, "You're being selfish, Sandra. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us, by embarrassing us in front of our friends?" The old me might have apologized or tried to patch things up, but I was different now. Strengthened by Liam's love and the support of true friends, I stood my ground. "No, Mom, what's truly embarrassing is using your daughter's wedding fund for your son's third marriage without a second thought. Liam and I are happy with how we celebrated our love, and that's what matters." The call ended abruptly, leaving a bitter silence in its wake. I knew this wasn't the end, but I also knew I had grown stronger. I wasn't the same person who feared their disapproval. Days later, I received a formal, cold letter from my parents. It was an invoice listing every expense they'd ever incurred on my behalf, from school fees to minor loans, with a note at the bottom: "Since you've chosen to distance yourself, we believe it's only fair for you to assume these costs." Liam and I shared a hollow laugh at the absurdity of it all. "Are they serious?" he asked, eyebrows raised. "It's just another manipulation attempt," I replied, tearing the letter in half. "But it won't work this time." Together, we decided it was time to sever ties officially. I wrote an email, clear and firm, explaining why I was distancing myself from them. I outlined their lack of respect for my autonomy and their continued attempts to manipulate me. Sending the email brought both relief and sadness. It wasn't just about distancing myself from my parents. It was about taking back control of my life. In the weeks that followed, the air around us felt lighter. We were building our life on our own terms, free from guilt or obligation. Every small victory felt like a triumph. Their demands for a second wedding and their manipulations had only solidified my decision. Liam and I were united, grounded in mutual respect and understanding, not the shifting sands of familial approval. This chapter of my life was about standing firm, about not allowing guilt or manipulation to dictate my choices. It was about living authentically, and that freedom was the greatest gift I could give myself. The weeks after distancing myself from my parents were quiet, but then one afternoon, they showed up at our door, uninvited. Their faces carried a mix of determination and faint concern. "Sandra, we need to talk," my mom said, moving as if to hug me. I held up my hand, stopping her. "There's nothing more to say," I replied, firm in my stance. "You got my email." I meant every word. My dad's expression hardened. "We're still your parents, Sandra. You can't just cut us off like we don't matter. I gave you both every chance to be part of my life in a respectful way. You chose not to take it," I said, my voice steady. "This isn't about cutting you off, it's about setting boundaries." They tried to argue, to plead their case, but I was resolute. Liam and I deserved peace without the manipulation. "This is final," I declared. The conversation ended with a clarity I hadn't expected. "Mom, Dad, I wish things were different, but they're not. Please respect my decision and don't contact me again." After a tense silence, they left. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I blocked their numbers, emails, and social media accounts. It was a hard but necessary decision, a mark of a new beginning. In the months that followed, Liam and I thrived. We made our small apartment a home, celebrated each other's successes, and faced challenges together. Life, without the constant burden of family expectations, felt lighter and happier. We often spent evenings talking about our dreams, planning the future we were building. Each conversation, each plan, wove a stronger bond between us. One evening, while watching the sunset from our balcony, Liam took my hand. "Do you ever regret it, cutting ties?" he asked softly. I squeezed his hand, filled with peace. "No. Because it brought us here, to a life where we are loved and respected for who we are, not for what we can give." Looking back, I realized that choosing my own path wasn't just about escaping toxicity, it was about honoring myself. Sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the most rewarding freedom. Liam and I planned new adventures, pursued hobbies, and surrounded ourselves with friends who shared our values. We were no longer defined by my family's past, but by the choices we made every day. As I share my story, I hope it reminds you that while family can offer love and support, it should never come at the cost of your self-respect or happiness. Independence isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental freedom, allowing you to be truly yourself. Thank you for being part of my journey. Your support means the world. Remember, always choose a path that uplifts you. Stay true, stay bold, and never settle for less than you deserve. This is the end of Sandra's story. I'd love to hear from you. Do you think Sandra made the right choice in cutting ties with her family to protect her happiness? Or do you think there was another way to handle the situation? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video. Stay amazed.